Dating back to the Barremian age of the early Cretaceous, Taman National Park is one of the oldest rainforests in the world. Come 2019, and almost like a Christmas miracle, I was able to revisit this forest, and this time on camera. To say I was stoked on that day would be a complete understatement. Now let's just say my father, who actually accompanied me on the trip, had no idea about the biodiversity he is about to witness. And believe me, what we're about to see is barely scratching the surface. With the most humble heart possible, I would say that the trip I had would be the ultimate Christmas present. There's no way to top it. What's up, guys? So yeah, we're going night herping. Well, okay, technically it's a night walk, but still. We'll find some really cool stuff. Yeah. In a span of 5 seconds on beginning the trek, we found our first animal. This huntsman spider, who was conveniently found on the nearest possible tree to our pathway. Now, unfortunately, I'm kind of stumped on the ID because I can't really see the creature clearly. Yeah, that's what I get for having a very fucking shitty camera quality. We then came across an extremely beautiful looking jewel beetle. The species known as Cataxantha opulenta, to be far more exact. It's unfortunate we came across this beautiful creature dead, but I guess that's nature. Time to put it back. Rest in peace. And betrayed by his hyaline layer is a beautiful Heterometrus spinifer, feeling just a little exposed under the UV light. Scorpions are some of the most basal arachnids to have ever lived. They lived on our planet ever since the Silurian. Amongst the leaf litter, we came across our next spider. Now, unfortunately, since my camera quality is as shit as all hell, I couldn't quite tell what species it was, only making out the pretty noticeable prostoma and ophistostoma of a spider. On the complete side note, I am familiar with this species of huntsman, Heteropoda David Bowie, which is a familiar sight in the jungles of Malaysia. And in the forest floor, we came across a colony of Macrotermes carbonaris, creating foraging trails similar to the Dorylingi ants. My guide then directed me to a bush on the other side of the trail. Let's just say I was a little bit too excited to find out that what I'm looking at was a scolopendromorph, more specifically part of the genus Scolopendra. I narrowed it down to 2 species, Sapinipes or Dahini. And considering both Scolopendra dahini and Scolopendra sapinipes occurs in peninsular Malaysia, I was obviously gonna have to look at the segments and the legs, in which I was a little bit too excited to do so I kind of forgot about it. So yeah, I'm left with the conclusion that what I saw that night was either Scolopendra dahini or Scolopendra sapinipes. We then came across a Orthopteran of some sort resting on one of the leaves on the way back from the trail. And again, I'm cursed with the terrible quality of my phone, which makes it hard for me to identify exactly what I'm looking at. We then came across a pretty common sight in Southeast Asia, Hemidactylus frenatus. And right as the walk came to an end, just as day broke, Taman still had one more massive myriapod to show us. A massive millipede of the Phyropygus genus. It was truly a pleasure trekking through the undergrowth of Taman once more. Never mind the fact that this forest is 130 million years old. The fact that I'm trekking through the last surviving primary rainforest of Nusantara is reassuring enough. Traversing through the rugged terrain with ease, I marched on, soaking in the biodiversity of this magnificent place. And just when I thought I'd seen enough, I encounter a wild hornbill, the old world equivalent to a toucan, via convergent evolution. A bird watcher and a naturalist would also agree that this would be an incredible encounter, but for me, a paleo enthusiast, this meant so much more to me. It was like Taman was reminding me about its prehistoric past, that the birds, the last lineage of dinosaurs, still remains on this planet even after 66 million years, a testament to how resilient we animals actually are. For what it's worth, this was the best Christmas ever. We then came across Varanus nebulosus. It was another very refreshing sight to see, as these are one of the goannas that are endemic to Singapore as well as other parts of Southeast Asia. Extremely easy to differentiate from Varanus salvator the water monitor, and that's when my dad spooked it. After what seems like hours in the jungle, night fell, and on my way back to camp, I decided to sneak in just a bit more herping. By next sunrise, my time in Taman Negara has finally come to an end. Satisfied at what the jungle has offered us so far, we loaded our stuff into the extraction vehicle, waiting to take us back to Singapore, ending our father-son expedition on a high note. Except there was just one last detour we needed to make. One last adventure. In search of a plant. A plant with no leaves, no stem. A parasite. A plant my dad and I have only heard in documentaries. A plant both elusive and endemic to Southeast Asia. A flower so foul only flies are attracted to them. Deep in the secondary forest of Cameron Highlands, we expect to find it. Rafflesia, the corpse flower. The largest flower in the world. Named by Sir Stamford Raffles himself. My family, especially my maternal line, have always been interested in botany, so Rafflesia was obviously a target species for me that I was determined to find. The genus Rafflesia is part of the Rafflesiaceae family, which is the largest member of the 6,000 species of the order Malpighialis, which actually evolved during the Cretaceous period, in which Tetrastigma, the current host of Rafflesia, did not evolve back then, so it was highly likely that there was a prehistoric vine to fill that role of host. By the Pliocene and Pleistocene, the already established Rafflesia underwent a Jurassic level of diversification. A study in 2010 by Mika Bendiskibe, Theron Schumacher, Galea Gurusarova, and Jamili Nais elucidates the evolutionary history of Rafflesiaceae during the Pliocene. In fact, I highly recommend you guys to read this paper. It gave me a lot of insight pertaining the Rafflesiaceae family. Don't want to give anything away too much. I suggest you guys to read it for yourselves. Anyways, let's go find this plant. Oh god, this is some rugged terrain. Hiking through yet another forest we trekked on, and one every bit as biodiverse as the one in which we came, crawling with leeches and Malaopython reticulatus. Joining us on our trek was Judy Alaruzio from the show Garden Time, and with the guide leading the way, it didn't take long for us to find exactly what we were looking for. Words cannot describe how much of a pleasure it was to be standing in the presence of such plant. This is one of the many species of Rafflesia you can find here in Southeast Asia. And what an honor it is to come across one of the largest of the holoparasitic angiosperms. Even though this particular individual wasn't the largest of its kind, it was still a magnificent encounter nonetheless. And with that magnificent experience out of the way, we decided to head back to the vehicle, on our way back home for real. However, like a moth to the distant moon, we were drawn by a unique primordial energy. Deep in the clouded forest of Cameron Highlands, a blast from the past, another destination I've reserved for my next adventure, however when that may be.